The Smith family has been in major gossip sources almost every month for the past 3 years. It seems as though they may never catch a break, but more importantly, it seems like we, the gossip people, will never run out of content and anecdotes. Jumping right in, we have their separation. Jada recently revealed that the pair, who everyone assumed was still unhappily married, have actually been separated for years, and everything that has happened between the two since 2016 has all occurred when they were not in an official relationship, and wow, a lot has happened. The separation was revealed alongside a myriad of other strange confessions and was followed by some even crazier revelations, which we will get into. The two say that they have always loved each other very deeply and that they always will, even going so far as to say that they are not planning to divorce, but they wanted to officially separate and provide each other space, which brings us to our next point. Up next is the revelation that Jada and Will were in an open marriage. I mean, this comes as no surprise to anyone, right? Like, come on. Now, a couple years back, this was all anyone was talking about. How Will Smith and Jada were in an open relationship, but only Jada was partaking openly, and by that I mean in the public eye. The man that Jada had begun a relationship with actually moved into the house with the happy husband and wife. This arrangement definitely created an even more tense environment for the group of them, and I can't imagine having to live with that. I mean, my parents split up earlier this year, and living with them even for 1 month while things got packed up was a pretty awkward and tense experience. Thinking of one of them inviting their partner to come live with us? Yeah, I'd press pause on that one. Some secrets should not come out, like Jada's hesitation to marry and the emotional reaction that she had on her wedding day. Jada and Will got married when they were very young, and it was actually Jada's mother who pressured her into the marriage because she really liked Will and saw a lot of potential in him. However, that decision aged poorly, obviously. For Will's birthday, she posted a fairly old photo of them with their 2 kids and one of Jada's sons from her previous relationship. Many fans sent birthday wishes, but there were a few, a good amount, who made snarky remarks and rehashed lines from Red Table Talks, contradicting the photo in the post. Some people commented on how she didn't love him romantically, and a clip came up of her saying how she cried all the way down the aisle because she did not want to be married to him, and how she felt pressured to be wed even though she never wanted to get married. Next up, we have the bonus son. Well, many know of the existence of Jaden and Willow Smith, not a lot know about the existence of the third son. Trey Smith was the product of Will's previous marriage to Cherie Zampino and tends to fly under the radar in the eye of the media. In 2018, Jada brought Zampino on her show and spilled the tea on the real story behind Trey, their relationship to each other, and Will's role as his biological father. For many Smith fans, this is the first time anyone had even heard about Trey. Will claims that he had to distance himself from Trey and his mother following the divorce. Will recounts struggling to maintain a healthy enough relationship with Zampino for him to play the role of Trey's father figure. Trey was raised by his mom alone, growing up feeling betrayed and abandoned by Will. Eventually, Will made amends and became a proper part of Trey's life, but for a long time, Trey was kept hidden from the public, surely leaving a stain on the family unit that can never be washed away. Next up, Complex Grandpa. This one is really dark. Like, okay, kind of in a funny way, because it's not actually dark, I guess. Like, the dark thing didn't happen, but no, yeah, it's pretty dark. Will Smith released a memoir called Will in 2021 that was chock full of info that you would have to waterboard out of me or pay me a huge sum of money. Okay, yeah, I get it. Well, proceed. The actor explains that while he was growing up, his father physically harmed himself and his mom on continuous and frequent occasions. So, in return for this treatment, he vowed to seek revenge for his mother when he was older and capable of more. Eventually, his father was diagnosed with cancer, and Will was forced to care for him while he was bedridden. Will saw this as the perfect opportunity to take his dad down. He wrote, "One night, as I delicately wheeled him from his bedroom toward the bathroom, a darkness arose within me." He then went on to describe the moment he contemplated pushing him down the stairs. He noted that no one would have suspected him, and the moment was just perfect. He wrote, "I'm one of the best actors in the world. My 911 call would be Academy Award level." Will ultimately decided not to end his father's life, instead taking care of him until his passing in 2016. Of natural causes, I think. Next is dating pre-Slapgate. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada Pinkett Smith has revealed a ton of information once thought to just be rumors. Well, we've already covered the fact that she has been separated from Will Smith for a while now, another fun piece of information has also been revealed. I don't know if it's fun, but it's information. Anyway, it's been revealed that before Chris Rock was slapped across the face by Will Smith live at the Oscars, Chris had actually asked Jada Pinkett Smith out on a date. Now, when you hear that, you must think, oh, he asked her out before they even met. Nope. This situation actually took place in 2016 at the height of the first round of separation rumors, which it turned out are completely true. At the time, Chris either had some inside info or he believes everything he reads online. According to Jada, Chris reached out and shot his shot, I guess. He called and he said he would love to take her out, which she was like, why? He clarified and told Jada he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce for real. When she revealed that this wasn't the case, Chris was so embarrassed and began to apologize over and over. Though they eventually moved past the moment, it may explain why Will Smith was so aggressive with Rock at the Oscars. There's no way he was unaware of the situation. Next up, we have the Smiths' self-raised tots. Rumors have been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden Smith basically raised themselves. Their upbringing was nothing to scoff at. Jaden was on track to becoming an actor after starring in the 2008 remake of the classic Karate Kid series alongside martial arts and opera legend Jackie Chan, but later shifted his focus to a more entrepreneurial side of things, developing his own fashion brand, which has garnered him massive success. His sister Willow opted to stick with her creative roots, however, has made quite the name for herself in music. Unfortunately, their behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden confronted his parents, calling out their terrible parenting skills. With both being so busy in their careers, they were never home to care for the youngsters. Jaden and Willow recount spending a majority of their childhood with various nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents between projects or if they were working with their parents, like Jaden and Will in The Pursuit of Happiness. It turns out they were all well aware of the whole separation thing from the very beginning as well. Will and Jada must have been waiting until the kids were financially independent and out of the house to finally call it quits, something they should have done a lot sooner. In that same vein, we have the horrid story of Willow Smith's stalker. In 2021, on her mother's talk show Red Table Talk, Willow Smith revealed the heartbreaking, terrifying tale of her being cyber-stalked. Cyber-stalking is a little bit more insidious and scary. This guy was doing that to me, and he was actually doing that to me for a couple of years. He basically got my patterns, Willow Smith had stated. In December 2020, while on a vacation and absent from her house, the stalker broke into her home. Her mother, Jada Pinkett Smith, located a camp that was set up behind the house, created by the stalker. His intention was to wait for Willow to return home. Jada immediately called the police, and the authorities recommended throwing out the contents of the fridge and cabinets in case the stalker had placed something harmful in the food. Willow Smith decided to take the stalker to court, filing for a restraining order against him. It was discovered that the man had been stalking her online for years. The restraining order was granted, but Willow Smith still has severe trauma from the whole experience. Next up, we have the birthday brawl, literally. For Jada's 37th birthday, Will decided it would be a great idea to throw a massive surprise party. Now, it wasn't just their celebrity friends, some close family, and what have you. He hired party planners to set it up and spent 3 days planning and getting everything ready, which really isn't that much time. He even booked Mary J. Blige to perform for her. Talk about a birthday gift. But that was not all. He traced her family roots and invited her family members from her long line of lineage. Not only did he find her family, he went out of his way to reach out and invite them to the party. You'd think she'd appreciate this labor of love, but instead she threw it back in his face, claiming he only did it to display his ego, and she hated the fact that he went out of his way to throw a party. He admitted he was devastated when she said those hurtful things, and it even sent him on a downward spiral that negatively impacted his life. This should have been one of the biggest of many red flags. I mean, if somebody just brought my entire family just from nowhere, that would be pretty scary. I don't think I'd like that either. I'm kind of with Jada on this one. Finally, we have Tupac. Jada was in a long-term relationship with Tupac years before she met Will, and his untimely passing was the end of their relationship. It's normal and even healthy to miss someone who passed, especially when you were romantically involved with them for years. But in 2012, while she and Will were still married, she posted a picture of her and Tupac in a very intimate embrace, and she captioned the photo, "I miss him." It makes sense wanting to share your deep feelings with the world, especially when they're affecting you the most, but that was a questionable photo to choose to post, especially when you're married to someone else. Not to mention, Will and Jada's daughter Willow wrote a letter addressed to Tupac after he passed because Willow claimed she knew he was still alive. One of the lines in the letter read, "Can you please come back back so mommy and me can be happy. I think my mommy really misses you." It seems sweet and rather innocent, but at a young age she was aware of how much he still had a hold on Jada, and she wanted him to come back into their lives, which at that point seemed like it could have been the end of Will and Jada's marriage. Nothing came of it, obviously, but it makes you question how much Willow actually knew about the situation.
Number 10, Andre Braugher. So starting off, we recently lost one of the funniest men on TV, Andre Braugher, who is best known as Captain Raymond Holt on the popular NBC comedy Brooklyn Nine-Nine, one of my personal favorite comedy shows. He was dealing with a difficult battle with cancer behind the scenes and decided that it was best to keep it to himself for the time being. In a similar vein to Chadwick Boseman, he just wanted to continue to work until he wasn't able to work anymore. While his battle was brief, it did not change the fact that hearts are aching around the world. The cast of Brooklyn Nine-Nine shared a tribute to the captain on their individual Instagram stories alongside an image of Holt. Terry Crews wrote that he was honored to have known the captain, laughed with him, and worked with him. He left too soon, taught him so much, and he will forever be grateful for the time that they got to spend together. He concluded, #99. Dirk Blocker, who played one half of the duo Hitchcock and Scully on the series, also wrote that he was an immense talent who possessed a deep and extraordinary talent with nothing but joy to offer. Mark Evan Jackson, who played Captain Holt's husband, Kevin, also posted a very sweet picture of them online with the caption, "Oh Captain, my Captain." Rest in power to Andre the Legend. Number 9, Madonna. Madonna is the original queen of pop. Her tunes have moved us and grooved us since her debut album release in 1983, simply titled Madonna. She is one of the youngest entries on this list, as she's only 64. The reason she is included on this list is unfortunately due to her recent hospitalization. Madonna was set to begin a world tour until earlier this year, when her scheduled performances suddenly canceled. According to Madonna herself, the hospitalization comes from a battle with a serious bacterial infection. She was kept over a multi-day period, but has been released back into her home, where her family says that she was uncontrollably vomiting, basically being bedridden since stepping foot back into the house. Apparently, she was suffering from a heavy fever for over a month, but has been able to push through. Just suddenly the bacteria took hold and she was sent to an ICU. While many people recover from this type of infection every day, the fact that Madonna has canceled all of her upcoming performances does not look well for her. Number 8, Selma Blair. This actress began to have multiple sclerosis flares after giving birth to her son back in 2011. Unfortunately, doctors weren't taking her or her symptoms very seriously. 7 years later, she finally got a diagnosis from a neurologist in Los Angeles. MS is a disease that impacts the central nervous system, and it can disrupt communication between the brain and other parts of your body. In an interview with Good Morning America, Selma said, "When I got the diagnosis, I cried with some relief, like, oh good, she'll be able to do something." Selma appeared on the May 2022 cover of British Vogue, detailing how she lived for 40 years before learning that she had the disease. She said that as early as 7 years old, she was unknowingly experiencing symptoms of MS, like losing use of her right eye, her left leg, and her bladder. But instead of being diagnosed correctly, she said that she was labeled as an attention seeker and was often dismissed by doctors. Thankfully, she has been in remission since 2021 and has remained positive. In an Instagram post, she said that she is in the thick of it, but she hopes to give some hope to other people and even to herself. Number 7, Celine Dion. It would appear that the My Heart Will Go On singer has been living with a condition that has left her with no control over her muscles. The legendary performer was forced to cancel her world tour last year following her diagnosis of stiff person syndrome. There's probably a more scientific name for that, but for some reason I can't find it. According to her sister Claudette, Celine is working hard, but she doesn't have control over her muscles. Stiff person syndrome is a rare neurological disorder characterized by stiffness of the muscles, particularly in the axial muscles. Individuals afflicted with stiff person syndrome experience episodes of muscle stiffness and spasms triggered by various factors, including emotional stress, sudden movements, or external stimuli like loud noises. Despite Dion seeing the top doctors in the field, she had very little progress with her health. They have been unable to find any medicine that works, but having hope is apparently very important. Last year, she told us that she was an open book, and while she's been dealing with this disorder for a long time, she didn't feel comfortable talking about it until December 2022. She's been adamant that she can no longer sing the way that she used to, which is by far one of the worst parts about that situation. Number 6, Sarah Hyland. In 2017, the actress hit back at people criticizing her for losing weight on social media, telling them that it was because of her health issues. Although she didn't open up about it until the following year. She told Self magazine that she had received a second kidney transplant and underwent several surgeries, including one for endometriosis and another for abdominal hernias, within 6 months before her interview. So, of course, all of this intensive surgery meant that it was quite drastic on her body, and she ended up losing a bit of weight because of it. It's a little depressing to realize that Sarah's body was being criticized at the very same time that she was striving so hard to heal. Kidney dysplasia is a condition from birth where the kidneys have not developed properly when the baby is in the womb. Now, back in 2015, the Modern Family star said that she was born with so many health issues the doctors told her mother she would never have a normal life, and she said, well, you're right, she won't, but it's not because of her health. Apparently, she had a kidney transplant in 2012 and at the age of 21, which was donated to her from her father. Number 5, Justin Bieber. The singer left fans concerned when he canceled his remaining tour dates of his 2023 Justice World Tour. He's had a lot of ups and downs with his health since 2020, but no official reason was ever given, although many felt that it had something to do with his recent diagnosis. Justin has been forthcoming with his fans about his struggle with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome type 2, which is a facial paralysis condition that left him unable to perform as usual. He posted about it through an Instagram reel in June of last year and revealed that his face is partially paralyzed. In the video, he described his first-hand experience with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. He talked about how the virus attacks the nerves and how the whole experience has increased his faith. He said, it is this virus that attacks the nerve in his ear and the facial nerves and has caused his face to have paralysis. It's going to be okay, and he has hope. And he trusts God, and he trusts that it's all for a reason. He's not sure what it is, but in the meantime, he was gonna rest. Adding to the facial paralysis, other symptoms of the syndrome are hearing loss, ringing in the ears, vertigo, and dryness of the mouth. Number 4, Bella Hadid. In recent years, the model's been very open about her battle with Lyme disease, which she first contracted in 2012 when she was only 16. In the years since, the disease has left her bedridden, hospitalized, and regularly requiring IV drips. Now, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Lyme disease is a bacterial infection that can be spread to humans by infected ticks. It's often diagnosed based on symptoms like a fever, headache, fatigue, or skin rash. Bella explained that a flare-up occurred nearly 1 year after she had a root canal surgery for a problem tooth. In a video shared to TikTok, the model showed off her swollen face with inflammation around her eyes. She calls it the invisible disease and explained that she feels symptoms every day like difficulty walking, joint pain, nausea, all the fun stuff. She talked about a flare-up and said that it was the Lyme disease attacking the places that are suffering in the tooth, jaw, guy, brain, spine, everything. Oh, and the entire nervous system on top of that. Unfortunately, it's a chronic illness that she's had to deal with long-term, but so far she's done an amazing job of bringing awareness to the disease and educating her followers about its effects on everyday life. Number 3, Selena Gomez. In 2015, the singer revealed that she had been diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune condition that causes rashes, fatigue, and joint pain. This is something she had to undergo chemotherapy for. She spoke up about it after some people accused her of having an addiction. She said that's what her break was really about. She could have had a stroke and wanted so badly to say she has no idea she's in chemotherapy. The complications from lupus continued for Selena, with her eventually needing a kidney transplant, which she got from a friend, Francia Reza, in 2017. The chronic autoimmune disease is much more common in women than in men and is typically diagnosed when women are of childbearing age. When a person has lupus, the body attacks its own cells as if they were harmful invaders. This can cause symptoms throughout the body, ranging from skin rashes and mouth ulcers to kidney problems and inflammation of various organs. There's no cure for lupus, but there are treatments to help people with the condition to manage their symptoms. Unfortunately, Selena has also been receiving a lot of criticism about her weight recently, and it got so bad that she had to go on TikTok live to address it. She explained that when she's on her lupus medication, she tends to hold a lot of water weight, and that's something that a lot of people still don't seem to understand. Number 2, Michael J. Fox. Having starred in box office blockbusters and long-time running sitcoms, Michael J. Fox was among the most promising stars of the 1980s. But despite all of his success and the fact that his career was on an upwards trajectory, in 1991, he was thrown a massive curveball. At just 29 years old, he was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's disease. though he would not share the news with the public for another 7 years, fearing that it was going to ruin his career. The diagnosis was difficult to accept because he was young and healthy, and he got 4 doctors' opinions before accepting his fate. All the time Fox kept his condition out of the spotlight, he was both suffering and learning about the disease, while his acting was greatly affected. Then, a lot of the world was shocked. The actor decided to go public with the information in 1998, before eventually becoming a strong advocate for Parkinson's research and making an acting comeback. It was a secret that he kept for such a long time that it must have just been incredibly freeing when he was finally able to tell everyone what was going on. And at number 1, Lena Dunham. The actress suffers from endometriosis, which is a poorly understood medical condition. It's caused when the lining of the womb is found in other parts of the body, most often the ovaries. Lena has been particularly honest about her experience with this condition, and like so many other sufferers, was misdiagnosed for years. In 2020, she spoke to Cosmopolitan UK and said that having endometriosis has had a really interesting effect on her relationship with her body. Pain does not inherently make you feel good. Pain does not make you feel beautiful, but in another way, it's forced her to really take ownership of her body and express her needs. Lena has undergone a total hysterectomy as a result of complications from endometriosis, which came as a difficult thing to accept because she said that she never had any doubt that she wanted to be a mom, but after riding the waves of this loss, she says she arrived at a place of acceptance and even positivity about how infertility had transformed her approach to dating. Lena even said that she's no longer relying on any male partner to make motherhood possible for her. She's found her own kind of freedom despite suffering from it. Number 10, Justin Timberlake. One of the most discussed sections of The Woman in Me, a memoir by Britney Spears, is of course a revelation on what really happened while she was dating her Mickey Mouse Club co-star Justin Timberlake. After meeting JT in the clubhouse, the two sparked a romantic connection, and their connection was strong, but unfortunately Britney had to make a terrible decision in the year 2000 when she found out she was pregnant. And at first she was very excited about the whole thing because she wanted to be a parent. In her book she revealed that she had planned on starting a family with Justin, but I guess it was just going to be a little bit earlier than she expected. Well, it turns out Justin not so excited and told her that they were both too young to start a family, continuing to remind her that their careers would also need to be put on pause. This revelation may be part of the reason that Justin reportedly was so nervous leading up to the book's release, and since the book's release, he's had to turn off his Instagram notifications because, hey, he's terrible and people want to let him know. Britney revealed that if the decision had solely been left to her, she would have gone through with the pregnancy, but she decided to go the opposite route instead. She claims that she only did this because Justin clearly didn't want to be the dad, and in the book she said that looking back, it was one of the most agonizing things she had ever experienced in her life. Number 9, Jamie Foxx. So this is one of the more recent secrets that's been revealed, so to speak. So far, this is just an allegation, but a woman is suing Jamie Foxx for alleged physical mistreatment at a rooftop restaurant. The allegations are being backed up by 2 eyewitnesses, a friend of the victim, and a security guard who saw the whole thing go down and let it happen. According to the unnamed woman, she spotted Jamie at a restaurant around 11 p.m. and after a couple of hours decided to ask him for a picture. Jamie was apparently under the influence, and according to the accuser, he became very handsy as the night progressed. He said yes to the picture and then apparently said that the woman had a model's body and smelled good. Then there are some darker and honestly pretty disturbing details that I can't go into in this channel, but if they're true, something tells me Jamie's career may be done. Truly just dark stuff. The court case is being brought forward as the Survivors Act is about to be implemented in the US. This act allows victims of physical offenses to bring civil cases to court after the statute of limitations has expired. The statute means that after a certain amount of time has passed, the victim can no longer file criminal charges. However, the new act means that civil cases are good to go. So we will see what happens to Jamie in the coming weeks. Number 8, Lizzo. Lizzo may have been a public advocate for body positivity, but as part of the lawsuit being brought up against her, it looks like all that positivity may have just been an act that she was putting on to make herself more universally loved. Now, I'm not a small man. In fact, I have what many call a dad bod, and I'm very cool with it. So I'm not dismissing the notion that we should love and respect ourselves, but come on, she made it a massive part of her personality on camera when it sounds like the only body she actually cared about was her own. According to her dancers, Lizzo regularly shames her team and makes them feel that they are too large or gaining weight, with several dancers confirming these claims. One of the dancers, Crystal Davies, who is part of this lawsuit, was fired for secretly recording a meeting between herself and Lizzo. The meeting was about the dancer's performance on stage recently and her apparently disliking the weight that she had been gaining, claiming that she wasn't committing to the role. She was also bringing her dancers to weird places and making them do weird things. Lizzo was at a club in Amsterdam's red light district when she coerced, aka forced, a dancer to touch a woman's bare chest despite saying no several times. She also made them eat bananas from some no-no zones. Again, nobody's idea of fun. Currently, there is still a court case up in the air and no one knows what will happen, but so far Lizzo is maintaining that she did nothing and will prove her innocence. Number 7, Russell Brand. Even before the controversy surrounding Russell Brand came up this year, this dude was unwelcome everywhere. Royal events, awards shows, kids' birthday parties, who knows? For anyone who doesn't know, I'm really sorry to be the one to tell you, but Russell Brand is a terrible person. The man known best as a comedian, a bringer of joy, was secretly manipulative, aggressive, and at times violent with his ex-partners. Following in the news that a documentary about his life and career was set to release on BBC's Channel 4, several complaints got filed against him, alleging mistreatment during their time together. The allegations were actually reinforced by Russell's ex, Katy Perry, who they dated for quite some time, and she came to learn that Russell was short-tempered, opinionated, and stubborn. Russell's career was canceled, and he's currently awaiting a trial. Number 6, Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors is currently the man behind Kang the Conqueror in the MCU. He was written as an important person in that franchise, being a villain in a couple of movies and recently a villain in the Loki TV show. Unfortunately for Jonathan Majors, an ex has come forward and alleged that Jonathan was physically violent towards her while they were together. Since March of this year, Majors and his team had been adamant that the situation was blown out of proportions and that there really is nothing to be upset about, which is always a fun thing to say to people during these situations. In fact, in June, Majors filed his own cross-complaint accusing his accuser. The prosecutors refuted these claims and told him they had no plans on prosecuting Grace Jafari, who was the woman who accused him. Majors has been dropped from his agency, and so far his role on TV and film is pretty up in the air. I mean, his character Kang may even be kicked out of the MCU and replaced by Doctor Doom, so let's see what happens as the year progresses. Number 5, Jada Pinkett Smith. Cheating rumors and dating scandals followed Jada and Will throughout their entire relationship. Since day one, people were convinced that they were in an open relationship or had just been straight up cheating on each other. Turns out that those rumors were kind of true, because ahead of the release of her book Worthy, Jada sat down with People magazine and every other news outlet to share some inside info. The most revealing one was that herself and Will Smith were actually separated for 7 years. Of course, that's not all though. Jada is slowly ruining that guy's life and then some. When Jada revealed the truth about her separation from Will, she claimed that by the time they reached 2016, they just became exhausted with each other. The news of their separation was a mild shock at best, because Super Sleuth fans claim that they had proof Will and Jada were separated a long time ago. Some of the clips that were submitted as evidence of Will and Jada just prove it, because Will and Jada was on Red Table Talk and he looks drained. He just looks like a man dealing with so much mentally speaking. In her conversation with Will, she literally says that herself and Will had basically broken up, but instead of just outright admitting the information, she decided to hold on to it until the release of her book. A lot of Jada fans commented on the resurfaced clips, and we can all agree just Will is having a rough time, and I just feel for this guy at this point. I could go on and on about how terrible Jada Pinkett Smith is, but I've only got a couple of minutes and I already wrote a lot of lists about why she's bad, so go check him out. Number 4, Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch hit the rap scene in 1991. Despite sounding like the title of a cheesy kids cartoon, the crew had a small following and garnered quite a bit of success. Enough for leading man Mark Wahlberg to be spotted, picked up by Hollywood to star in The Corruptor, a 1999 action flick that sees Mark play the leading man, Danny Wallace, a police officer who attempts to stop substance trafficking and corruption by the Chinese triads. He had a successful acting career that's recently been declining in quality, but he's still acting and he looks great at 52, so please don't hurt me, Mark Wahlberg. Growing up in Boston, he was the youngest of 9 children and was relentlessly bullied by his fellow siblings. His parents divorced when he was very young, and he became addicted to no-no snow by the time he was 13. He dropped out of high school and was eventually arrested at the age of 18 for attempting to slay 2 Vietnamese men. Apparently, he was walking home late one night under the influence of hallucinogens when he spotted the men. Close friends at the time confirmed that Mark did have a bit of a racial bias with his upbringing, which caused him to be instantly aggressive towards anyone who, wasn't white. He attempted to swing a large log at them, which made contact and knocked one of them unconscious. He was eventually released after serving only 45 days of a 2-year prison sentence, and he vowed to change his life forever. So far, that promise seems to be kept, and I can personally confirm that he's a very polite and patient person because he watched a movie at a theater I used to work at. He travels with like 5 people at all times. It's a little intimidating. Number 3, Margot Robbie. Margot may be a perfect Barbie on screen, but apparently behind the scenes, she may be a psycho. In a recent interview with BBC Radio 1, Margot reminisced about a little prank she pulled on an old babysitter. It involved kitchen cutters, which is the word I'm forced to use for See, they bleep it out. Apparently, Margot has just gotten a new babysitter, a much older woman that just was not as cool as Talia, her old babysitter, so she hatched a plan of sweet, sweet revenge. After a particularly trying day where Margot refused to take a bath, she decided to kick the old lady out for good and grabbed ketchup, a stabby-jabby device, and laid face down on the kitchen tiles. You know, the old I'm kinda dead routine. As you may expect, her babysitter walked in, took one look, screamed, and just jogged out the door. She was gone. She traumatized the woman, who quit, and Margot successfully got her old babysitter back. But that's very messed up, and Margot was so young when she did that. That is so dark, a dark place for someone's mind to go that early on. Was she secretly a little crazy this whole time? Might explain why she is the best Harley Quinn we've ever seen on screen. Number 2, Tim Allen. Tim Allen is the voice of Buzz Lightyear, the star of ABC's popular sitcom Home Improvement, which premiered in 1991. And while he may have played a family man on TV, a lot of fans may not know that Tim was a smuggler of no-no snow in the early 1970s. According to Tim, he got mixed up with some pretty bad people back in the day while he was selling certain substances on the street for a couple of bucks. In 1978, Tim was arrested in the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport and was caught with more than 650 grams, 1.4 pounds of no-no snow. Unfortunately for Tim, state legislators had just passed a law that tied a life sentence to any conviction of selling 650 grams or more. Like, there was a guy from the government just next to his car like, oh, 650, all right, well, if you got 650, then you're going to jail. However, that sentence was never served, and it was revealed that Tim was set up by an undercover police officer who had been following him for months. Due to this and Tim's cooperation in providing the names of fellow dealers to the authorities, it led to him receiving a lighter conviction that allowed him to be sentenced in a federal court instead of a state one, so he was able to ignore that new policy. His information led to 20 arrests and the sentencing of a major dealer. So think about this entire entry and tell me that wouldn't be a great movie. Number 1, Danny Matheson. Danny Matheson was that 70s show's popular boy, and it helped launch several careers, including Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, and of course himself. Danny was also on this show, and it turns out the allegations against him date back to 2004 and were reported in 2004. Danny was still on the show when an investigation took place. 4 women reported that he had mistreated them physically, prompting local law enforcement to halt production of that 70s show and bring Danny in for questioning. The investigation brought little to no actual evidence to the table because it was just that time, so Danny was let go and the whole thing was forgotten about. But that means that Ashton and Mila watched this dude shut down their project and still said, hey, he's a great guy. When the charges come up again 15 years later, people are still sticking to his side that he was friends with, but it turns out that he was an actual menace and a horrible person, and he's gonna go to jail. Number 10, Do Not Come. As many may know, in the past couple of weeks, Taylor has been spotted at more and more Chief games, cheering on the Kansas City Chiefs alongside Travis Kelce's mama, who you would think an enthusiastic and energetic crowd member would be a nice addition to the game and welcomed by the players. Well, apparently not Taylor. In the last couple of weeks, a trend has been flooding the internet of people trolling their boyfriends by claiming that Taylor Swift made Travis famous. On top of the annoying amount of content based around that, Taylor has been seen regularly attending the games with a lot of attention being put on her instead of the actual game. You know, cameras zoom in, fans cheer for her instead of the players, but the team seems to be turning this into a motivational thing as they have won every single game that she's attended so far, which is why several football players for the Philadelphia Eagles have started begging Taylor to sit out their game versus the Chiefs. One player, Eagles quarterback Darius Slay, mentioned Taylor during an episode of his podcast, Darius's Big Play, and jokingly told Taylor not to be present when they visited the Chiefs on their home turf. It seems that Taylor is their good luck charm and everybody knows it. Their next game is scheduled for October 9th, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, so fingers crossed she comes to that game and keeps this streak going. Number 9, Mama Drama. Throughout a ton of this Travis and Taylor drama, there's been one woman by her side through most of it, and that is Travis's mom, Donna. Donna was recently interviewed by the podcast podcast Got It From My Mama and explained that spending time with Taylor Swift has felt like being in an alternate universe. She was mostly just surprised and excited by all the hype surrounding her son and his possible new relationship with Taylor. Every week the hype gets bigger and bigger, but what Donna doesn't remember is that Taylor has a long history of chilling with her boo's mamas. In the past, she's been seen living it up with Joe Alwyn's mom, who she was with for over 6 years. She spent a ton of time with Joe Jonas's mom, even though their relationship was pretty short, so if anything, Donna should be nervous. The more time this woman spends with you, the more likely it'll be that she breaks your son's heart and then writes a song about it. Chief of My Heart, Kansas City Chameleon, You Suck! Those are just some of the titles, just some ideas for Taylor in case that actually does happen. Number 8, running for president. Now, this entry is a little bit recent and it just popped up in the news cycle. It hasn't been confirmed as really happening yet, but is pretty neat and I thought we should talk about it. The United States may still be a year away from electing a new president. Sure, Joe Biden might get another term and serve a full 8 years, but not if Taylor Swift has anything to say about it. The former director of strategic communications for the White House, Elisa Griffin, was speaking with The View Behind the Table, which is a podcast, when the topic of Taylor Swift and Travis came up. Now, Alyssa was pretty excited to talk about the situation with them, but then shared some information on Taylor regarding political stuff. She claimed that if the country wanted to see Donald Trump stay out of the office, that the only smart move may be to throw Taylor's name into the running. As pointed out by several of my co-workers, Swifties make up like over 50% of the country, so the moment that her name appears on the ballot, she'd win in a landslide. People who've never voted in their lives would register just to get her into the office. Now that's when the fun begins. Personally, I have no political views, but the idea of Taylor Swift becoming the president of the United States, for some reason it just doesn't feel that far-fetched. Number 7, restaurateur. Over the last few days, the rumors that Taylor Swift is dating Kansas Chief tight end Travis Kelce have been running rampant, and they were actually spotted attending a Chiefs game, and of course she was spotted attending a few Chiefs games with Travis's mother and leaving the events with Travis. But those rumors were cemented as true and that they probably are a couple when Taylor decided to buy out and clear an entire restaurant for the day, while people were still eating their meals. According to several patrons of an unnamed establishment, they were happily eating their meals when they noticed that the waiters started slowly making their way around the room. When they approached the table, they were informed that their meal was paid for, but they would have to leave right then, right now. The patrons left, and when they returned later on, filled with curiosity, they discovered that it was Taylor Swift who kicked them out. Getting your meal paid for by a stranger sounds cool, but imagine how awkward that scenario is. Hi there, your meal's paid for, now get out please, just leave. Listen, I don't care who you are, if you wanted to have so much privacy, maybe just go home and order Popeyes, Uber Eats, anything else. Number 6, party hardy. Taylor has a ton of A-list buddies that she spends her time with, but one woman who's been making headlines alongside Taylor has been Sophie Turner. Sophie, of course, is going through a very public divorce with one of Taylor's ex-boyfriends, Joe Jonas. The two of them are currently in a pretty public battle for the rights to their kids, and the divorce has brought several things to light that has caused the courts to force Joe and Sophie to do couples counseling while they try to figure out how to properly handle the situation. But instead of attending the classes and trying to keep her family together, it seems like Sophie has been out and about partying with Taylor Swift. Taylor is a terrible influence and has been living it up with Sophie for the past couple of weeks, apparently keeping each other occupied while Joe goes into a downward spiral. Sophie has accused Joe of a lot of stuff during this whole thing, and Taylor has just been standing there telling her that everything's fine and she's doing the right thing. Number 5, the profiter of pain. If there's one thing that Taylor Swift is famous for, it's taking tragedy and turning it into triumph. Her career is basically just built on the backbone of her broken relationships. Men like Harry Styles, Tom Hiddleston, and many more are set to be the inspiration for some honestly catchy songs. You can hate on her all you want, but I'll still be dancing to Shake It Off every time it plays. Just because the songs are good though, doesn't always mean that the person who's inspired them is going to enjoy them. While some of her exes like Joe Alwyn have been pretty supportive when it comes to Taylor's writing, other people like Tom Hiddleston have not been so stoked. Taylor is clearly a sour topic for a lot of people. Even the happy-go-lucky Jake Gyllenhaal would rather not talk about his time with Taylor, and honestly we can't blame him. Imagine the worst breakup you've ever gone through in your entire life, and now imagine that it was a top 10 on Spotify. Your soul would be crushed. Number 4, Travis Kelce. This is the most recent entry to Taylor's library of possible partners. Travis Kelce is a football player for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Taylor was spotted attending one of his games a few weeks ago. So there was nothing out of the ordinary there, but then there was more. Taylor got spotted attending the event with his his mom, literally sitting arm in arm together the entire night, and they've done that a couple of times now. Taylor was then photographed cheering him on from the sidelines, his mother just as excited as she was, and if that wasn't enough, they were later photographed walking out of the stadium together arm in arm. Now, this dude's been on podcasts talking about how he can't say much and not really specifying if he is or is not with Taylor. Only people hiding something say that, okay? As the weeks go by, we're gonna get more and more proof that this dude is dating Taylor, but for now, it's still just speculation. Number 3, transportation. There was a massive theory going around the internet as Taylor started her Eras tour, and people were wondering how it was possible for her to get around venues when there were crazed fans literally around every single corner. And not to mention, in order to get to the stage of most outdoor venues, you have to be exposed to the public even for the briefest of moments. But there was one common theme at all of her shows. The event staff were always seen pushing this tall janitor's cart back and forth before the show would begin. Now, the first red flag was the people pushing this thing had earbuds in their heads and they were wearing black t-shirts, not exactly janitor clothes, and eventually a fan was able to get the right angle and capture a moment when Taylor stepped out of the cart backstage. Not only did this confirm the rumor, but Taylor's secret vehicle had been outed to the world. Now, I'm not going to be attending the concert because I'm not that rich, but for those of you who are attending, keep an eye out for 2 people in black t-shirts pushing a random coffin around or something down the halls. Number 2, the Master. If you've ever purchased a ticket for something online, then you're probably no stranger to Ticketmaster. It's one of the most popular ticket purchasing programs on the planet. When it was announced in 2022 that Taylor would be doing this whole Eras World Tour thing, the ticket sales were insane. So insane that she single-handedly took that website down. Well, her fans did. So after the pre-sales went up for the Eras Tour, an astonishing 2.5 million Swifties got into their virtual queues and started ordering tickets. 2.5 million people is a ton of online foot traffic. Think about all those people going in at once to buy their tickets. 2.5 million people! Yeah, so the website glitched and millions of fans were unable to find or purchase their tickets. The glitch was eventually fixed and Ticketmaster took away one of the options for general tickets until the majority of the pre-sales had been gone. Now, Taylor wasn't directly responsible, but following the news, she said nothing except, oops, I didn't know, that's my bad. Yeah, she didn't care one single bit. She was just glad that her bank account was nice and full. Number 1, she can't swim. Taylor Swift knows how to put on a good show, okay? And this next entry just proves that sentence. During one of her first shows of the Era Tour in Glendale, Arizona, Taylor stood in front of her fans as a small hole opened up in the stage. She jumped in and a masterpiece in LED technology started to play. She jumped in and waves flowed across the stage as a bird's eye view showed her swimming from one end of the stage to the other. Granted, it's definitely not Taylor and it's just a projected image, but that's still neat, you know? That's why I said that she can't swim, because she's not swimming, get it? The sequence ended with a large wave hitting the back of the stage, with Taylor appearing underneath a cloud in a new outfit as the waves vanished. Thankfully, it worked out on stage, as it was reported that during the rehearsals for the show, Taylor actually missed her mark a couple of times and belly flopped into the pool, which would have made for a pretty different show. Number 10, his final words. The first police officer at the scene when Tupac passed away revealed in 2014 what the very last words he ever spoke were. Last words are a defining moment in our lives, the final sentence that leaves our lips before we vanish. Sometimes it's lovely and meaningful, but as you may expect, Tupac's final words were anything but peaceful. The officer who heard these words kept them to himself for years, only revealing what they were almost 20 years later. The officer explained that Tupac took a deep breath to get the words out, and he opened his eyes. According to the former sergeant from Las Vegas Police Department, his final words were, F you. Only he said more than just a letter. A very Tupac way to go out of this world. The officer felt the need to withhold the information while an investigation was taking place. They didn't want the headlines to read, final words F you. Instead, they wanted to make it known that the case was serious and that they were on top of it. Now in 2023, the case is reopened and there might be some closure, but that has yet to come. Speaking of which, number 9, who ended his life? If you're watching this entry, you are more than familiar with Tupac Shakur and how he met his end. Almost a week after being blasted by an unidentified assailant in his own SUV, he passed away on September 13th, 1996. He was only 25 at the time, and thanks to his very public feud with fellow artist Biggie Smalls, his passing led to years of rumors and speculation as to who really did the deed. 6 months following his passing, Biggie was caught slaying another person in a very eerily similar fashion. The evidence was pointing to the artist, and the only person who could truly point the finger was Shakur himself. However, a few days ago it was revealed that a man named Dwayne Davis was arrested on suspicion of slaying Tupac. The police suspected his involvement for years, but it wasn't until he started doing press that they had enough evidence to reopen the case. In 2009, he confessed to being in the area on camera, boasting about how close he was to the moment. In recent years, he's been painting a picture that he was front and center when things went down. While there has been no conviction just yet, the officers involved are confident that they have caught the man responsible for taking down a man considered to be one of the greatest of all time. Number 8. He wanted to act. While not known for his time on the silver screen, one of Tupac's main goals in life was to have his face on the cover of a movie poster. Well, that dream came true in 1992 thanks to the film Juice, a crime drama featuring several big-wig actors like Sam Jackson. The film was a critical darling with a little bit of everything for both fans of Tupac and fans of the crime thriller genre. In the few years before his passing, Tupac started a handful of other projects, movies like Poetic Justice, Above the Rim, and Gridlocked being the most lucrative. Despite his presence in the world of music, his public feuds and fallouts, he was able to get his face on a poster and people actually really liked it. Now, I'm not a big Tupac guy, in case that wasn't obvious, but it's cool that he got the chance to do his thing before someone decided that he shouldn't be around anymore, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it. Number 7, relationship to Jada Pinkett Smith. Decades after Tupac's passing, people still had questions about his relationship to Miss Pinkett Smith. Rumors had been circulating with some claiming that Jada may have had a hand in what happened. Well, while doing an interview on Sway Universe, she weighed in on her relationship with Tupac. Jada said that when she first met Tupac, she was a purveyor of narcotics, so to speak, continuing to explain that this was how they first bonded. She clarified that something really terrible made her leave the world behind, but she had already introduced Shakur to the scene. As she got out, he got deeper in. She claimed that they were close for many years, even claiming to have paid a bail of $100,000 after Tupac was held for possible mistreatment charges. Now, what makes their relationship more questionable is Will Smith expressing his jealousy towards the late musician. Will claimed that while things never got physical, their love for each other was legendary. The interview only made it seem like Jada had a ton of skeletons in her closet that were yet to be revealed, so we shall see how things go. Number 6. His last name means thankful. A fun fact about Tupac Shakur is the meaning of his last name. Tupac was born in Brooklyn, New York to members of the Black Panther Party. Now, if you don't know what that is, take a history class. His first name, Tupac, came from the 18th century Peruvian revolutionary Tupac Amaru II, whose name meant shining serpent. Amaru II led the largest rebellion in Spanish colonial history. Though the indigenous uprising was unsuccessful and he was executed as a consequence, the revolutionary became a mythical figure in Peruvian struggle for independence, as well as the inspiration for several Spanish-American causes and beyond. And Shakur is an Arabic word for thankful. So, shining and thankful were this man's first and last name. Legendary. Number 5. His love of Shakespeare. So when doing research for this video, I found a ton of fun facts about Tupac that have nothing to do with dark secrets or anything, so let's talk about some of those for a minute. For starters, Tupac was a massive fan of William Shakespeare. While he was attending the Baltimore School for the Arts, Tupac was a well-known thespian. According to Tupac himself, he just loved this guy, claiming that Shakespeare wrote some of the most raw stories of all time, and then saying that Romeo and Juliet was some hardcore stuff. Before his passing, Tupac even claimed that Shakespeare was one of his main inspirations growing up. He attempted to create music that discussed the human condition, and he wanted to showcase what a man in his situation was capable of. As life went on, he poured his heart and soul into his lyrics, just like Willie Shakespeare. Number 4, he knew about the holograms in 1993. Oddly enough, holograms are becoming a real thing that is just kind of normal. I was at a festival over the summer and there were just logos floating in midair, spinning in 3D. It hurt my brain, but in a good way. However, back in 2012, a hologram was unique and new. In comes Snoop Dogg with special guest hologram Tupac. Snoop was headlining Coachella in 2012, where he sang a duet with the holographic Shakur live on stage, also joined by Dr. Dre. The lifelike hologram sparked some pretty mixed reactions, varying from, hey, that's pretty cool, to, like zoinks, it's a monster! A ton of people thought it was so real that surely Tupac was alive, and he offered himself up for a full body scan. However, one darker rumor that may never be proven is that Tupac knew about holograms existing in 1993. This is a popular conspiracy conspiracy theory online, okay? It's not my personal opinion. I just thought it may be fun to chat about holograms possibly existing in the early 90s. According to a ton of online forums, not only is Tupac alive on an island somewhere, but he is also the keeper of government knowledge. Whether he knew back in the day or not is one thing, but the way his hologram moves makes the world think that he must have scanned his body before he passed so that the digital copy of him would exist for all time. Number 3. Snoop Dogg. Tupac and Snoop Dogg had a very public feud when they first met, but they were eventually able to move past their differences, squash their beef, and Snoop Dogg has gone on record telling the world there is nothing but love between them. Their friendship may be discussed a lot, but we haven't covered it here on BTS before, so let's give it a little chat. Snoop was very close to Tupac before his passing, and in recent years, when asked about Shakur in interviews, Snoop gets a little bit emotional and gets deep into it. During one particular appearance on Logan Paul's podcast, Snoop told a story of visiting Tupac in the hospital in the final days before his passing. At the time, both of them were signed to the same record label and had recently collaborated together on 2 of America's Most Wanted. At the time Tupac was in hospital, they were not on the greatest of terms thanks to some personal drama, but that didn't stop Snoop from telling his buddy how much he loved him. Tupac was unconscious, so there was never a real sense of closure for Snoop, but he is very thankful to have had the time to speak to his buddy one last time. Number 2. His net worth. Tupac was a major player in the music industry, still considered to be one of the greatest of all time to this day. Despite passing away in 1996, his music was still being edited and released after his passing. Dozens of albums have been released over the years, but one thing that is still unconfirmed is just how much Tupac was actually worth before he passed away. A majority of his music was released following his passing, with only a handful being major hits while he was still alive. Unfortunately, he was taken out way before he was able to properly enjoy his success and his new bank account. Sure, you can Google Tupac net worth and it shows you a number, but the real number will always be unknown. Tupac's the only person who knows what money he had set aside, maybe hidden in a drawer or in a mattress, and he's the only one who knows what his most prized possession really was. So far as we know, he had a good chunk when he passed, but for all we know, that amount could be immeasurable. And at number 1, the truth. If you made it this far into the list, I just want to say thank you for sticking around. I really hope you've learned a little something along the way. Not much to learn in this video, but still, good job getting here. Taking the top spot on this list is, of course, the truth, because despite the police opening an investigation and having a suspect in custody, the only person who could give a detailed walkthrough of the night that Tupac was taken out is Tupac. Only he can describe the person who took him down, the exact scenarios that may have led to the drive-by, and so much more. We may never know the truth, but maybe that's a good thing. Number 10, an advocate for Maui. Oprah has been claiming to be many things since the Maui backlash has begun. A good boss, a charitable woman, and an advocate for the island of Maui. By starting this fund and donating her spare millions, she has made her mark in the public as a woman who cares so much that she is asking you to give her your money. Isn't that sweet? The main reason people believe that Jason has not spoken on Oprah is because he knows that she is being a phony. As mentioned in a few previous videos, Oprah would not care about Maui or its people if she didn't have a vested stake on the island. Oprah has had property in Maui for quite some time, being almost a second home to her. When the fire started raging, she started fundraising. Think about all of the things that have happened in the past few years. We all forgot about this, but Australia was on fire in 2020. Let's see, Western Canada was on fire earlier this year. Heck, some parts of Florida have been underwater for the past few weeks. Yet Oprah has dedicated her time and money to helping out the area where she has a vacation home. Number 9. The multiple snubs. Jason is of course a gifted actor, having his mainstream career launched when he starred in Game of Thrones as Khal Drogo and cemented it when he portrayed Aquaman in Justice League. Now, despite his several major screen roles and his work with various foundations and charities, Oprah has never invited him onto her show once. Jason has never outright complained about being snubbed by Oprah, but considering the person that he is with other talk show hosts, she was silly not to bring him on. He has a great story to tell, and he is a joy, according to people like Jimmy Fallon and James Corden. As the years have gone by, Oprah's show was cancelled, and she now oversees a ton of shows that are similar to hers just from a production standpoint rather than being on screen. Jason has not been invited to those shows either, but I'm not sure what he would have to contribute to Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz. Number 8. trespasser. There is a video circulating the internet that many people are interpreting as a direct message to Oprah Winfrey. Jason released a video on his Instagram a few weeks ago urging tourists not to come to Maui as the place was on fire and they did not need anybody's help. He claimed that he appreciated anyone sharing love for the people of Maui and continued to say that there was someone trying to actually scam people out of money pretending to be him online. After sharing links to several sites that were directly linked to putting money into the pockets of the people of Maui, fans decided to focus on the bit about people staying away rather than that. At the same time that this was happening, Oprah and The Rock had announced the People's Fund of Maui, which was the thing that caused all of this backlash in the first place. In Jason's video, he does not include a link to the charity, and he does not even acknowledge its existence. He's since spoken out about the charity, but has never said the names Oprah or Dwayne Johnson aloud. People are just putting two and two together, and the internet has decided that Jason Momoa has called out Oprah Winfrey for being an absolute trespasser. Number 7. The lies online. Ever since the Maui situation has broken, content creators have done everything that they can to get views and share different sides of the Oprah story. One of those people is said to be Jason Momoa. Someone somewhere created a story about Jason Momoa calling Oprah Winfrey evil. A video claiming that she was to blame for Maui, that she was not to be trusted, all that jazz. Someone said that was real. However, that's not true. The video in question was actually edited out of context and shared with the entire world. Beneath the edit was the caption, "Jason calls out Oprah over Maui." Now, because of the way that this was edited and that little sentence burrowing into your mind, the second you clicked the video, it suddenly became the truth. People were so confident that Jason was pointing the finger, but in reality, like I've mentioned before, he actually has not mentioned Oprah or The Rock by name. The evil that he was referring to was the hackers on Instagram who were trying to catfish as him and asking people for money. Now, I know the title of this video is Jason Momoa Exposed Oprah, and up to this point, these have been legitimate examples, but that's really all I have for specific Jason versus Oprah stuff. So for the rest of this video, why don't we just talk about the woman that you came here to learn about for a moment, Oprah Winfrey. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. Let's get into some dark Oprah secrets that were exposed. Number 6, her free cars. Who could forget Oprah's famous words? You get a car, everybody gets a car. She didn't say it like that, but I gotta put a little shimmy in it. The moment was historical on her series and was parodied time and time again, and it still does get parodied today. What many people don't know is that it wasn't as simple as here are your keys, have fun. When someone gives out anything on television, there is always a catch. For Oprah's audience, the catch was that if they wanted to drive away in their brand new car, they'd have to pay her $7,000 in taxes first. While Oprah's studio would of course cover the sales tax and the registration for each car, the audience members were given a choice. They either could pay the $7,000 and take the car that they needed out of the studio, or they could just simply take cash instead. The infamous moment on the show featured 11 real teachers who were, according to Oprah, in desperate need of a new car. They, along with the audience, received keys in a box on camera that Oprah claimed to be for their new vehicles, but everything has a catch. Even now. For someone who was known for being such a charitable and generous woman, the word free really does mean something different to Oprah. Number 5, the NDAs. Confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Marvel will literally hire someone to take you out if you even think about dropping a single line to the public. In Kitty Kelly's tell-all book about Oprah, the author mentions the confidentiality agreements that co-workers and guests were made to sign. Now, this included everybody from guests like Tom Cruise to the person who made Tom's muffins. Over 500 staff members were forced to sign this document, and one former employee, Elizabeth Cody, actually tried to write a book about her time working with Oprah, but she was stopped by the courts, still being tied to the agreement that she had signed. The NDAs were not meant to be a way to keep just the show secrets safe, but any and all of Oprah's secrets were locked in a vault. According to Elizabeth, the document was signed by almost everyone in Oprah's life. She may have this brand of sweetness and kindness, but in reality, that is apparently not even close. Elizabeth felt that she was in Oprah's pocket after signing the paperwork, and in 2010 a lawsuit was filed against Oprah and her company, claiming that the company Unicus Performance Training had violated the terms of her agreement, specifically involving advertising with her name. Oh, does someone give you a free ad? That's too bad. Number 4, diva. On air, Oprah is portrayed as this wholesome, sweet lady, but according to her stepmother and a ton of other people, there is an unknown side to Oprah hidden from fans for years. According to Barbara, Oprah's stepmother, Oprah is one of the most controlling people that you're ever going to meet. She claims that Oprah will not allow them to stay at her house whenever they try to visit, forcing them to stay in hotels with money out of their own pockets. Barbara also said that Oprah was quick to anger when it came to her staff, with several people being fired left and right over the years just because. But that's not all. Despite being a billionaire, Barbara allows Oprah to stay at her house when she visits, something that Oprah apparently complains about the moment she steps through the door. The first time she ever stayed over, Oprah allegedly complained that her bed sheets weren't 1,000 threads and that her bath towels weren't big enough. I can forgive that last one. Giant bath towels are legendary. If you don't have one, I suggest you get one. This woman has billions of dollars to do literally anything that she wants, and apparently what she wanted to do was make her family feel like they were a burden. Number 3, she's a wild child. Several books have been published about Oprah over the years. Some of them were from her and some of them were not. In her own book that she wrote, she revealed that growing up she was far from an easy kid to handle. When she was young, she was sent to live with her father Vernon after Oprah was caught stealing from her mom's purse. And despite being an on-screen persona known for charity and kindness, she was actually a menace throughout most of her life, according to her family. As I mentioned previously, Oprah's stepmother is not allowed to stay at her house, and she is known to be very controlling. She even admitted to doing some pretty troubling things at a very young age, including staging an amnesia bout, breaking several things in her mom's house, and then calling the police so they could come investigate. According to Oprah's mother, she was uncontrollable, ungrateful, and after that stunt, maybe a little crazy. Number 2, her buddy, Dr. Phil. Oprah is not just responsible for hopes and dreams being squashed live on her show, but she's also the creator of many talk show celebrities, namely health expert Dr. Oz and the so-called life coach Dr. Phil. Now, before Dr. Phil had his own show, Oprah had asked him and his courtroom consulting firm, which is what he did before, to help her with a trial. Before meeting Oprah, Phil had zero interest in being a television personality, but then Oprah was like, hey, you should do it, and she made him see the light. According to Phil, she helped him understand the power of the show and what they were truly made for. Now, for Dr. Phil, he brings people onto his show who are struggling with really personal issues that just so happen to be great for television. Remember that Catch Me Outside girl? Dr. Phil made her rich and famous. Thanks, man. But it's not just Phil that's had some controversial moments. Her other protege, Dr. Oz, has had some pretty rough moments. His show is centered around medicine and health, so he brings so-called, experts on week after week. My mom loved this show. Oprah was partnered with both of these people, meaning that whatever they made, she got a little bit of something for her trouble. Now, she doesn't like to advertise how much she really made from these programs, but considering how many episodes they have and how long the programs have run for, it's probably a lot. And at number 1, herself. Now, Oprah is taking the top spot on the list of dark secrets exposed by, because she's been doing it since day one, okay? She did it to herself. Her talk show is all about bringing the most vulnerable people on to get views. She's brought violence victims, health experts, fake psychologists, and convicted felons onto her program, all for the sake of views and profit. As the years went by, her style was adapted by more and more people, with Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz just being 2 prime examples, but they are both equally as controversial. Not to mention, a few years back, she wrote a book detailing her early life and rise to the top, revealing a ton of dark stuff that could occupy its own list. She herself was considered to be a tyrant by her family, but it seems that whatever negative juju lived in that house, it rubbed off on Oprah. Number 10, she knew already. While all of the controversy surrounding Russell has come to light this year, it seems that Katy Perry may have known exactly who Russell was very early on in their relationship. An interview with Vogue magazine from 2013 has been making rounds online. During the interview, Katy reflects on her brief marriage to Russell, claiming that she felt responsible for the dissolution of their union until she found out the real truth. When they first met, Russell wanted to find an equal, but once he got that equal, he could no longer handle the equalness. She went on to say that he became very controlling as time went on, and while at first she felt responsible for the split, she discovered the truth eventually. The truth was something that she, quote, can't necessarily disclose because she keeps it locked in a safe for a rainy day. It sounds like Katy not only knew of the misconduct back in 2013, but she actively kept kept that information to herself. Had she just come forward, this entire situation could have been addressed a long time ago, but the victims were only willing to share their experiences after being hounded by reporters. Whether she planned on revealing the information at a later date or not, she denied the people that Russell hurt a chance to speak up as soon as possible. Number 9. Tried to have a baby. Katie admitted that while she was married to Russell Brand, that the topic of starting a family was a regular conversation. For Katie, it was pretty simple. She did not want to start a family with someone who she was pretty confident would use that family as an excuse to control her, but Russell is, a wholesome family man who's just ready to settle down, right? Katie admitted during an interview with Marie Claire that she was scared of Russell trying to make her a stay-at-home mom. When these two were a couple, Russell had some popularity in films and TV, but Katy Perry was, Katy Perry. She kissed a girl and she liked it. She was hot and cold and she blew up like a firework. Make 'em go, I'm sorry, I gotta get that out of my system. I just got a little carried away sometimes. As the relationship went on, the conversation stayed the same. Not ready till she knows he's gonna be a good dad and let her do her thing. Well, that was certainly not the case, and Katie believes that her unwillingness to bear a child is one of the main causes of Russell's decision. Whether that's true or not, Katie clearly made the smartest decision of her life when she said no to this man. Clearly a word that he was used to hearing, but he's known to ignore it. Oh, that guy sucks. Number 8. She was almost a victim. The allegations being brought against Russell claim that he is known for being aggressive, handsy, and just an overall nightmare of a human being. It's not even close to the right word, but it's the only one I can use. The general consensus is that this man is not good at first impressions. Most of the accounts being brought forward claim Russell to have been a tyrant since the moment they've met, with each allegation worse than the last. Katie's first interaction with Brand was filming a scene for the 2009 comedy Get Him to the Greek, a spin-off of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, featuring his character Aldous Snow, the musician, and Jonah Hill as like a record label employee. Katie made a cameo appearance in a scene that was ultimately cut from the final project, and the scene saw Katie and Russell's characters just locking lips during the opening montage of his downfall. Katie told Glamour back in 2010 that at the time she was stoked to film the scene, but it was their second meeting that really should have been Katie's first warning sign. They rediscovered each other when Russell took the stage at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2009. Katie flung a bottle at him and he caught it, but after the show, he was furious. When Katy Perry approached him, he claimed that she was fiery and that she caught his attention. Katie went on to describe the interaction and what Russell attempted to do that very same night. Katie admitted that Russell attempted to force himself on her, but she was successfully able to steer clear of him. Russell was furious, but he listened to what she said and he apparently walked away. 4 months later, they were engaged. Katie may not have understood what was happening at the time, but considering the horror stories coming out about Russell, she may have saved herself from becoming just another one of his victims. Number 7. The text. Breaking up with someone over text is a stupid thing to do. That is one thing that many of us learn as we grow up. Face-to-face needs to happen when it's something serious like a breakup or personal issues. While most people learn that by the time they're in their, mid-20s, Russell is in his 40s and still doesn't seem to get the memo. Katie released a documentary concert called Katy Perry, Part of Me, containing a clip that really should have stalled Russell's career the moment that it came to air, but oh well. The clip shows Katie lying down in a makeup chair sobbing, being told that she can either call it quits or continue the show. She had just received a text from Russell essentially asking her for a divorce. After a moment she stands and she's good to go, but during an interview in 2013 with Vogue, Katie told the outlet that she could not divulge the specific message that was sent. But to put it into perspective, she had not heard from him for 2 years following the cryptic text. We have to wonder what words he used and why he decided that a text was the best way to deliver this news. It literally makes no sense at all. Just none at all. Russell sucks. Number 6. Marriage went cold quick. Marriages do not have an exact timeline. Some last for 50 years, some for 50 days. For Katie and Russell, their marriage was cut short after only 14 months together. As previously mentioned, Russell was really the one who decided to call it quits, basically out of the blue. In the years since the divorce, Katie just maintains that Russell was slowly losing interest in her as a partner. According to Katie, Russell was jealous of her fame and would even attempt to berate her into thinking that he was the superior one in the relationship. When he decided to call it quits, she blamed herself at first, but soon discovered a secret truth about Russell that she keeps in her back pocket. The brief marriage is already a red flag in and of itself, but the timeline is just all over the place. Russell is known to be a chaotic man in general, sharing some pretty ridiculous views on politics, religion, everything. But during his time with Katie, that attitude never went away. According to her, he was constantly cornering her to spout out his views, and he just would not let her go until she just kind of nodded and agreed. Now, it's not just Katie who has noticed Russell being an absolutely dreadful person. So for the rest of this list, let's talk about some general red flags that we've noticed over the years. Number 5, Aldous Snow. Aldous Snow is a character that Russell played first in the film Forgetting Sarah Marshall and then reprising the role in a spin-off called Get Him to the Greek alongside Jonah Hill. The worst thing about this character is just how easy it is for Russell to get into him. While doing press for the Greek, Russell was compared to his on-screen counterpart all of the time. This dude was always on no-no juice, partying hard. He was just basically Russell but on screen. But he would constantly deny any relations. In fact, during an interview with MTV, he told Laramie Legal that he was much more cool and mellow and slower, not as silly as some of you may think. We all know that's not true. Jonah Hill has gone on record saying that filming with Russell was super difficult. While they were both dedicated to the craft, Jonah just took the project a bit more seriously than Russell did. Aldous Snow was set to be a regular character on the big screen, but following the release of his film Arthur, Russell's acting career as a leading man was basically just gone. Number 4, he was banned by the King. The comedian turned actor may be best known for Aldous Snow, but for Aldous Snow, or maybe his musical chops with the real fake band Infant Sorrow, but what many may not know is just how much this dude hates the royal family. Who am I kidding? It's obvious, just look at him! He took to YouTube to express his opinions and declared that it was ridiculous to have a queen and having to be forced to call her things like Your Majesty. What's with Russell? He's such a jerk. He dug his hole even deeper when in his book Revelation, he criticized the queen for her German heritage, calling her a word that I'm not allowed to say online and don't Google it. Needless to say, this was a perfectly logical reason to ban Bran from entering the palace gates ever again in his life. He's actually one of the few celebrities in the entire world to receive this honor, so it really should have been the first big red flag when it came to this guy. Number 3, his rants. If there is one thing that Russell is well known for, it's his political and religious rants, which are usually pushed on people with, without their knowledge or permission. By that I mean you probably already paid good money to see this man live expecting a comedic performance, but you were instead met with some pretty messed up ideas about religion and just kind of the world in general. During one special on Netflix, Russell compared himself to Jesus a few times and gave several long-winded examples that I don't really want to repeat because, you know. This man has some truly dark beliefs. If you're curious what they are, just wait a year or two for the crime documentary to come out. Russell Brand, a special brand of evil. Man, that's a good title. I am smart. Number 2, stand-up. His rants are not just limited to the paying stage. This man is known around the world as a fairly mid-comedian. Now, nowadays he's probably known as the creepy guy from Bedtime Stories, but if you've had the misfortune of popping into an open mic or maybe even onto the streets of England, there's a good chance that you've been forced to listen to Russell Brand's stand-up. His comedy is crude, he veers into rants and statements more often than telling jokes, and at the end of the day, people feel like they just witnessed an underwhelming TED Talk about Lord knows what. Now, I've personally only seen like 1 or 2 of this dude's stand-up specials, and I can say with confidence, he is not okay. He's really not. Number 1, and at number 1, Channel 4, BBC. BBC Channel 4 News has been a staple in the world of British television for years, and by staple, I mean it's responsible for some of the worst celebrity interviews you've ever watched, but we've talked about that in a different list. Channel 4 is on this list because they have all of the secrets just wrapped up into a little bow. Not only did the outlet literally help launch this dude's career, but they have recently been at the forefront of the media storm thanks to a little documentary centered around Russell that clearly outs him as a vile and disgusting man. He has treated so many people so terribly over the years, with justice finally being served and the proof clearly being in the pudding. We'll keep you guys updated on the situation as it comes up, and if you've seen the documentary, please share your thoughts.